This episode of Rookie Hunter is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation. Adventures in sheep country can change your life, and as residents of BC, we're very fortunate to have 3 different species of sheep in our province. After attending the Wild Sheep Foundation's annual convention, Sheep Show, in Reno, Nevada, we got to see what conservation looks like firsthand. The Wild Sheep Foundation's ability to raise and put millions of dollars on the ground each year to keep these majestic animals on the mountaintops worldwide is unmatched. The Wild Sheep family is a diverse group of people from all walks of life, and membership is open to anyone. Whether you're a seasoned pro, it's your first time on the mountain, or you just like to see sheep on the hillside, you can sign up and join today. Kelly and I are lifetime members, but you can become an annual member for just $45. You can also become a member of the Less Than One Club, which is the only club you want to get kicked out of. If you've never taken a North American or international ram, you can join us in the Less Than One Club for an extra $25. Plus, Less Than One Club membership also includes entry into a draw for 3 separate Doll sheep hunts, which will be given away at Sheep Show in 2019. For more information on the Wild Sheep Foundation and to become a member, head over to wildsheepfoundation.org. Hey guys, welcome to episode 81 of Rookie Hunter. Today on the show, Kelly and I are in the studio together. We're going to answer a few questions that got sent in through Instagram. We're going to talk a bit about our doe hunt that took place 2 weeks back. And we're going to talk about my blacktail hunt that I just got back from on the west coast of British Columbia. Had an awesome time out there. If you haven't done so already, please support our sponsors, the Wild Sheep Foundation. Head over to thewildsheepfoundation.org and become a member. You can also get yourself registered for Sheep Show, which is happening in February of 2019. It's time to get your tickets, book your flights, get your buddies ready for a road trip. We hope to see you guys there. Hope to crush a few beers with you. Also head over to North Arm Knives and get something for yourself. Don't forget the holiday season is just around the corner and these guys get crazy busy. So if you want to get something as a gift for somebody, head over there right now. Again, that's northarmknives.com. And give somebody a knife for Christmas. That sounds nice, doesn't it? We also have a Facebook page set up. Just search for Rookie Hunter on Facebook if you want to keep track of us there. Everything we do gets pushed to Facebook, blog posts, anytime an episode goes live, Instagram, everything gets sent over that way. So if you want to, give us a like and follow along there. Let's get into this episode. Sit back, relax, crack a cold beer, and enjoy episode 81 of Rookie Hunter.
How do we start this?
I don't know.
It's dark out. It feels weird podcasting when it's dark out.
I know. I kind of like this office in the fall because it's cozy.
Mm-hmm.
You got the windows and shit you can see outside, but I don't know. It's got kind of warm lighting and shit in here, so I dig it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even, it's about 5 o'clock right now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much dark.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. Kelly, I just put up some Insta stories. We kind of suck at doing that, eh?
I've tried to do it a couple times, and each time it takes me about a half an hour to figure out
I know,
how
that's
to
what
do
I
it.
was having issues with too. Like,
It's the only time I actually feel like I'm getting older.
Yeah, you open it up and you're just like, I don't understand how to do this shit. Fuck it.
I've done a couple, but
Yeah.
it's one more. It's like that other thing you have to do, right? Like,
yeah.
But I do think they're cool. I definitely watch a few that are out there.
Yeah, for sure. So I asked some folks. Well, I asked 2 things. One, do you have any questions for us? And also, what's on tap? Oh, we got a few here. Stuart, he said Bench Creek Brewing has been on tap for me lately. They're a local brewery. I think he's out of Alberta that has a lot of neat offerings. We'll have to see if we can find that one here in BC. Silence.
Which one was it? What's it called?
Called Bench Creek Brewing.
Yeah, I've got nothing.
Got nothing? Okay,
No.
We'll add that to the list. Maybe we'll try and find it for next week.
Okay.
So the other thing I said was, do you have any questions for us? So let's see here. Brent asked us if we would ever participate in the seal hunt. Thoughts on that one?
Seal hunt?
Yeah.
Like where?
I don't know. He didn't say.
Okay.
That's just general seal hunt. I just was on the coast, as were you.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was, there was fucking seals everywhere.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if that's like a BC thing. When I think of seal hunt, I think of like northern Canada, like
Where they're
Hudson Bay.
clubbing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really have any ambition to do it. I've never thought about it before.
Well, I was thinking about it over the weekend because we're going to jump into what I was doing over the weekend, but we were out on a sailboat and I was on the West Coast and there were seals all over the place. Like I couldn't even say how many I saw, like hundreds of them. Locals, I think, are sort of fed up with seals on the West Coast here. Number one, eating a lot of fish. You know, I think the competition for things like whales and stuff like that, also commercial fishing and just, you know, normal people fishing as well. You imagine how much those guys eat in a day. The general feel I got from people was, yeah, they're getting a bit out of control. Things might be a bit out of balance and maybe some control issues are needed to be put in place. If that was the case, then yeah, for sure, man. I think that'd be kind of a interesting thing to hunt. I've never really thought about it up until this last weekend.
No.
I would be interested to see a sort of like as a cultural thing to see how Aboriginals hunt in the north, like you were talking about. I don't really have anything against it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, one of the benefits of hunting is the different types and like different types of food, right? Like more from a culinary aspect. So I'm always interested in that side of it. And I can't say that I've ever had seal. And if there's actually a need to manage them, then that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah, I wasn't aware. I don't know if it's like a BC thing where they've kind of moved in that direction, or I don't even know how you'd hunt them.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you'd probably have to shoot them from a canoe or non-motorized vehicle or something like that, right?
Like when they're on land, though.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I have no idea how you go about that. But yeah, it would be tricky because they look like a dog.
Yeah,
like they're kind of cool. But I totally get it. I was only there for 3-4 days or whatever it was, and yeah, you see them all over the place. They're kind of a nuisance. So yes, I guess is the answer, as long as it made sense. New experience, different type of meat. And for those of, you know, people that have to do it in order to sustain themselves, I got nothing against that.
No, like the general discussion about up north and the, you know, traditional ways and, you know, the people surviving off them and all that kind of stuff. Like I have no issues with that.
I know it's a bit gruesome and that got some bad press and stuff like that. You see, you know, seal blood all over pure white snow. It looks a little bit rough, but
but those are the pictures that people are posting for that purpose.
Blood is a part of, you know, eating meat, so is what it is. Yeah. Another question: thoughts on solo hunting versus hunting with a partner?
Pros and cons. But I don't know. I think it's a personal thing. It depends kind of where you're at. I think it kind of depends on where you're hunting too. Like personally, I'd rather hunt with other people, and then if you have to split up, then fine.
Yeah.
But I do like the kind of teamwork aspect of it. And we, you know, hunt in BC. Like if I was up north and I was doing a solo sheep hunt, like I just don't picture myself doing that ever.
Yeah, I don't picture that. For stuff around here, no offense, I do like solo hunting.
Yeah.
For one main reason is like your decisions only impact you. So if you decide, I want to hike, you know, 8 kilometers and shoot a mule deer, well, that falls on me. I don't have to worry about anybody else's thoughts on it. I just do it, and the consequences fall into my lap and nobody else's, right?
Yeah.
And I've had the most success on my own too.
Yeah, for sure. But the thing I think to factor into that equation too is to not ignore the potential safety aspect, right? And the thing that kind of brought that out even more this year for me was that day that I had the when I twisted my knee, and it took that long to get out, right? So like just consider that, you know, there is a potential that you could have a misstep or you could slip off something or whatever. And that's one of the cons of solo hunting and something that you need to be prepared for. And if that means taking a wildlife safety course or like a first aid course or something, like I just think it's a smart thing to do, that if you're going to go out there solo, there's nothing wrong with it, but just make sure you're actually prepared.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'll never put myself in a situation that I feel uncomfortable in. That being said, if your partner gets hurt, there's not much you can do for them other than tell them, encouraging things. If you're kind of on your own, I can't pack you out, right?
No, I mean, yeah, it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the
In
first aid action, like maybe rolling people over, or holding their like tongue out, or like it depends on the situation. But CPR, whatever.
Yeah.
If it's really serious, obviously those are serious.
Whenever
instances.
I do solo hunt, and you've gone out a bit on your own too, I'm always within cell range, and I always send either you or somebody else locally that knows where I'm going to be and say, hey, if something happens, this is where I'm hunting today. Somebody always knows where I'm at, so
there seems to be that threshold where you cross into like, with 2 or more people, it seems like we'll just keep going as far as we want.
Yeah.
But there is a boundary, and it differs for everybody on how far you want to go by yourself.
Follow-up question. What makes a good hunting partner, or how to maybe find one? I think we've been lucky, Cal, as far as hunting partners go. You and I have been through this journey together, so we've kind of grown as partners, right? We had no idea what the hell we were doing, and we've had similar goals, I think. I think our goals have shifted a little bit, but we kind of pulled each other on the same track, which is a kind of a cool thing. There's like, there's compromises involved, but it always kind of, goes down the same path.
Yep.
Garrett's an awesome hunting partner. Kevin's been on a few hunts with us. Everybody gets along. And then we went out with
Kyle.
Sorry, Kyle. Forgot your name for half a second there. Beer's kicking in. And yeah, I think as long as you can find guys that you have a good time with, you've got a good hunting partner.
Yeah. We've talked about it in the early episodes. It's like being in a band, being in a relationship, being in like all these different things. Like there can't be no compromise, but you do want to, center your efforts around people that are actually somewhat on the same page.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of be on the same page, and then like everyone's got to, talk to each other. And we've been in multiple situations where one suggestion has been thrown out and we all kind of had votes on it. I think there's got to be a bit of respect within the team that whatever hunt it is, like if you're out there and you can't change that, like you're with the people you're with in that hunt,
make the most of it.
You got to make the most of it. And you also have to respect everybody in that instance. Right.
Yeah.
And then, maybe the next time you got different folks and that whole situation changes again. But just find people that are somewhat on the same page and value the same things. It's similar to relationships and bands and
business,
teams
or
and
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not easy, man. I think I struggle the most with that because I'm kind of a stubborn and selfish individual. I want certain things, as I'm sure people have sort of figured out through this whole thing. But the main thing is, if you're not having fun, then move on and find other guys. We've been super lucky, and I've never had any issue with anybody we've ever hunted with. It's always been nothing but good times. And you might not be able to do what you want to do on that hunt, but there's always next year, and you can always try and link up with somebody who has similar goals that you do. It's kind of hard for me to say, how do you find guys that are more aligned with you? Because again, we've been lucky. So I'm not too sure say that you, Kelly, if you just started hunting on your own, I couldn't give you any advice on how to find somebody else to hunt with. You just sort of have to put yourself out there, maybe to go to like meetup groups, like, like Backcountry Hunters and Anglers has pint nights and stuff like that. Those are good places to meet people.
Yep.
Forums might be a good place too. We don't spend much time on there anymore, but I'd say going out to those pint nights and stuff is probably the best way to do it. And just reach out to folks.
I find that you meet a lot of folks in your workspace too. Like talk about hunting in your life, and you'll be surprised at how many people actually hunt. And then you make a connection and you go out with them and you see how it works.
Yeah.
And you do that enough times, you'll find a group of guys to hunt with.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, and we've talked about it before, but like underlying all of this, if you're not having fun, it's not worth it. And that's really like the baseline for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it fun first, and then, meet, rewards, experience, all that kind of stuff on top.
Yeah, for sure.
So you got to be enjoying what you're doing, or it's pretty tough to sit out there in the wilderness, whether you're with people, whether you're by yourself, doesn't matter. If you're not having fun, first of all, you're not going to have a good chance of getting anything.
Yeah.
And because it's hard.
Yeah.
And you should be having fun.
Yeah,
So-
for sure, man. Fun is the number one thing. Here's something I kept meaning to mention. And well, it only kind of occurred to me a couple of weeks ago when we talked to Mark Hall. We've mentioned this podcast with him quite a bit. So if you haven't checked that one, it's worth listening to. And that was one of my favorite conversations to date.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said, I think this is what he said, was it's important to be aware of conservation issues, but not to bring those with you when you're out there and let them distract you from the hunt, from having a good time, basically. And
Yeah.
based on the areas and the kind of hunt we're doing this year, I brought a lot of that shit with me, and it fucking kind of pulled my hunts down a little bit.
Yeah. Like it's a heavy weight.
Yeah.
Not to say ignore it, but
Don't let
Don't-
it get
don't
in
let
the
it
way of
wreck your
having a
hunt.
good time.
Yeah,
But-
exactly.
So yes and no. I kind of brought that stuff with me. It was kind of hard to ignore in a lot of situations, but you definitely want to, take a deep breath and be like, okay, I'm here. This is what I'm doing. I can observe what's around me. I can learn from this situation, but don't let this pull you down and ruin, we planned for that hunt. I'm talking about the moose hunt specifically for, I don't know how many months was that prior to that, at least 4, 5 months or whatever from when the LEH draw came out. And it was more so leading up to it where I had a lot of those things in my mind, and they still jumped into my head while we're up there. But you do have to kick them to the side and just say, hey, I'm going to have fun. This is what it is.
Yeah.
And learn from it. So anyways, got another question just popped up here. I was wondering if you guys ever mess around with calling or rattling. Yes, we've done a fair bit of that. Over this last weekend, we were rattling for Blacktail. I don't know if it did us any good, but we've called in elk, cows with your call.
Within 5 feet.
Yeah, that was crazy. We've got, I think that's on our Instagram from a couple of years back.
Yeah.
That was pretty
sitting on
wild.
that rock.
That's kind of the first time that I realized like, oh, this does work.
Mhm.
One fun thing that we've done is use the old blade of grass as sort of like a distress fawn call. And that's got lots of attention, both from bucks and from does, just kind of a fun experiment. We've had all kinds of critters pop up just from doing that. Never really had any success with calls. Whitetail hunting is, I think that's more where that stuff comes into play
Mhm.
as far as rattling in a buck and calling and stuff like that. So
Yeah, the general consensus seems to be that it applies more to whitetails, but I have heard that we shouldn't underestimate the fact that mule deer can be vocal too.
yep, for sure.
So, I mean, I wouldn't probably use it as my first tactic with a mule deer, but I wouldn't, exclude it altogether. Maybe if nothing's working, I would personally start with more of a rattle situation with the mule deer.
Yeah.
But with whitetail, that seems to be, and we've had experience, like you say, of calling in whitetail with the old grunt call.
Yeah, for sure.
And didn't get that one, unfortunately. It's actually surprised me because I was like, I don't know if I'm just gonna call this once in a while and see what happens, and all of a sudden there's a big buck stand in front of you. You both scare the crap out of each other. It runs away.
Yeah,
that's kind of how that worked out. But having gone through that, I can definitely say that calling works.
Yep. You just got to be patient. I think that's the main thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And like we've said before, put yourself in a position where the wind isn't. The animal's going to come in downwind because they want to know, okay, something's calling.
Yeah.
But what is it? So they'll go downwind of you. Just make sure you're aware of that.
Yeah. That last question was from Frank. I think that's enough questions. We got a couple of things to talk about. I had a fucking awesome weekend. Unfortunately, you weren't there with me.
Yeah.
But
it was close.
Close, not too far away, just a stone's throw away. But the last podcast we did we recorded it like 2 weeks ago, I guess, right? And we were going to go for the doe hunt. Kelly, how did the doe hunt go?
It was a good time. We went up top on top of the plateau, found some areas like about this time of year, November, the deer start coming off the plateau and finding lower elevations.
Yeah.
So we kind of found some areas like that. The problem is to get up to those areas, you kind of have to go up and over the plateau, up to the top, and then back down again. Yeah. And we kind of kept progressing along this road. We saw a buck It ended up being a 3-pointer, I think.
Yeah, out of season.
Of course.
Yeah.
You see what you can't kill, but that caused some excitement. And then we kept going down that road, and we ended up getting into some sticky, muddy stuff that we kind of made a business decision at that point. Like, there's no point of return here. So we ended up going. We went down the hill knowing that we wouldn't get back up, and knowing that the road that led out from that position was a better one.
Yeah.
So, we didn't get stuck or put ourselves in a position where we get stuck, but
still a bit stressful though. We were out in my Mazda, which I think is pretty awesome off-road. It's really good in snow, got good tires and everything like that. But the way this mud was, it was like we probably had at least 2-3 inches of mud stuck to the tire.
Mm-hmm.
So even though the roads weren't that bad, we were just like tobogganing down this shit. And so you'd have to like get into the grooves on the road and just sort of like, okay, we're going straight. We'll just stay locked into these treads here from other vehicles and kind of play this out until we get to the bottom of the hill. Yeah. And then we actually had to get out and kind of kick some of the mud off. And then what I did was just hauled ass. When we finally got to a flat road, hauled ass down the road just to kick off all the mud on the tires so we could actually get some traction. So it was pretty crazy. I never really encountered that before.
Yeah. And then, of course, we're in the bottom of this river valley.
Yeah.
And we know we have to get up on top of the plateau again to get out. So then the focus almost shifted to like hunting for does to a little bit of stress about like, can we even get out of here? Right.
Yeah.
Because we hadn't actually been on this road, even though on the map it showed as a good road. So
yeah,
that's the one learning for me is like, I think we were in a good spot. We actually slowed down a little bit at that one opening in the trees there. And we were like, should we get out and hike a little bit? And I felt like the situation we were in kind of overrode the hunt at that point because we were concerned about like, are we going to be stuck here tonight?
Yeah, for sure.
So that was I think the big challenge with that day overall. And then we kept going, decided, well, we're going to loop back, right?
Yeah.
The loop took quite a while. And then by the time we got up to the top, the weather changed and all of a sudden there's a blizzard.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And it's just snowing like crazy and the snow's building up. Like it was already an inch.
Yeah.
Like just within the first little bit there when we got back to the spot, and there's no slowing down. I don't know. I mean, there's just a point where you don't want to get into a position where you can't get out, especially when I think it's about 30 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's quite a ways in.
We decided to turn around there, and by the time we turned around, we drove about a kilometer or so. By that point, our tracks coming in were already covered in snow, so it was coming down pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Partially a lack of experience in that area, so we're not sure of like, what is the impact here? Like, is it going to get to the point where we can't get out? So,
but when we got home,
we played it safe.
Yeah. When we got home, Kelly, I looked up in that direction and it was like black. Like,
yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So I think we kind of made the right decision in coming back, but it kind of messed up our hunt, and yeah, is what it is. We discovered some new areas that we had never been into up there before, and that's so it wasn't a loss. It was fun, anyways.
Yep, did see some sign. We also saw a ton of traffic too, which was a bit of a bummer.
It's sort of the theme of this year.
Yeah, it's
sort of it's one of those areas that it is what it is. You're dealing with lots of logging roads and competition in that, but it's a doe tag, so why not try and take advantage of it and get out there and.
I feel like the story of this doe tag, which I wasn't totally expecting, is you have a fish in a barrel. You just can't really get to the barrel.
Yeah, totally.
It becomes very difficult to get there, especially mid-November when there's like, look at the mountains now.
Mm-hmm.
Just totally covered in white.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to have a tag in a spot, but you need to be able to get there.
Yeah, totally, man. So,
and the other equation that we need to weigh is like, we could go around, go to this other city, coming from the back way.
Yeah.
And then you're factoring in like, do I want to spend $400 to $800 on gas to get a doe?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah.
But anyways,
yeah,
that's the story of the doe hunt, the one day there.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We got out and did some hiking and stuff like that. And
we actually found some cool moose spots.
Yeah, we did actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saw quite a bit of moose and some pretty significant rubs and stuff there too. And so, yeah, it wasn't a loss at all. It was cool. Mm-hmm. And same area actually where we got the bear. So somewhat familiar, but got some new things to check out in there. Oh, buddy, easy, Oscar. Gonna hit. Yeah. Anyways, Blacktail. Should we talk about Blacktail?
Yep. So yeah, you were on the island.
Man, I hate to brag, but I had like the most epic weekend I've had in a while.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah, and I can't say too much about the purpose of the trip, but I was working essentially. So on the trip, I can mention that Connor from Talus Creative was part of that. He was the videographer on it. I was doing sound for it. So it was a hunting related project that we're working on, and I'll be able to talk more about it in the new year. But the cool thing was we were working with a couple and their friend, and they're all based out of Vancouver. So the guy who we were sort of was the focus of the film, his name is Ryan, and he's a chef in Vancouver. His wife came along. She's an absolute killer. She's hunting's been in her family for a long time, from what I gather. So she's no stranger to hunting. And then another guy that is a good friend of theirs, he came along too. Bones is his name. So it's Lisa, Ryan, and Bones, and Connor, and myself. Ryan's got a wicked sailboat, and he kind of gave me the history on it. His grandfather actually built it, so there's a lot of history there. His grandpa was a hunter and a fisherman and all that kind of stuff, so lots of history there. And obviously pretty proud to be going out and taking people on that sailboat. Pretty cool boat, man, like everything inside of it. So I think what he did was he bought the hull and sort of built everything inside of it, right? So it's all made out of like teak wood, and it's super cool, man. Like,
Nice.
I can only imagine the amount of hours that went into building it, and then the amount of hours that go in just upkeep on a boat like that. And it had a stove in it too, so it was nice and toasty. But one of the big takeaways, I guess, was the fact that like people who live in Vancouver do hunt, and they have the opportunity to do it if they have the means of transportation and everything to make it happen. So, I think a lot of people, bust people's balls that live in Vancouver and sort of blame them as the source of, people who don't understand hunting, and that's why we end up with a grizzly bear ban and all that kind of stuff. But there are people who are going out there and doing it. So it's pretty cool.
Yep.
So I think I got there on the Friday morning. I left Kelowna at 4 a.m. So it was not the best situation to drive to Vancouver at 4 a.m. But got to the harbor and hopped on the sailboat. Came out of right by Stanley Park, actually, is where the yacht club was, where they had the boat parked, and left the city right from there. So you can imagine that was pretty cool. Not an opportunity you get to take advantage of every day. Come out of the harbor, you go underneath the Lions Gate Bridge, and then we headed towards the island that we're heading to. I'm not going to say what island it was, but pretty cool, just that experience alone. And then we got there. They pull like a little Zodiac behind the sailboat. So throughout the coast, these yacht clubs have their own little setups on various islands. So if you're part of this yacht club, there's places on different islands that you can pull up your yacht to, or your sailboat, or whatever you're cruising on, and that's where you leave it. And then you take the Zodiac to go hunting from there. So you that's your home. You tie up to the dock, and there's actually like barbecues and picnic tables and shit houses and everything like that. So it's pretty cool setup. So we got the sailboat there. It was about a 4-hour trip in the boat. First thing we did was we grabbed prawn and crab traps and threw those out, which was pretty cool. And then everybody got ready, and we went out and we hunted for the evening on the Friday. So it was a pretty full day, and we actually saw at least 2 does, and it was any buck, and antlerless was open for blacktails at this time of year. And being the first day, of course, everybody was passing on the does, right? They were just looking for a buck. So it was sort of last light. We saw these does, and they didn't want to shoot them. And I did have my rifle with me, but the purpose of the trip was not for me to be hunting necessarily, although that was an option. It was more about them getting something and that being part of the story that we were trying to capture. So that was day one. Pretty exciting to see deer on the first day like that. I think I sent you a photo of this. So we hiked down. By the time we get back down to the Zodiac, it's super dark. It's safe enough to cruise home in the boat and everything like that. But they had, when we first pulled up to the dock in the afternoon, they recognized the boat that was parked there. There was just us and one other one there, and it was a friend of theirs. What the fuck was his? Big Buck Allen was what they called him. And so we hiked down, we get to our Zodiac. He knew that we were there. We just kind of, I think they wanted to give him a heads up and say, hey, we're hunting in the same area, just so you know that we're kind of around, but we won't be in the, same spot as you. We heard a shot earlier on before we had hiked down. We get to the Zodiac, and then they get a text message from this guy, and he cut his hand super bad. They got a buck. You know how when you're skinning, I'll explain this as best I can. You make an incision in the hide.
Yep.
You get your fingers in there, you spread them open, and then you get your blade in there with the sharp side sticking up, and you slide your hand along it, and you'll cut through the hide like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess he kind of got hung up. I don't know if his knife was shitty or what, and he decided to move his hand to the front of the knife and started cutting along that way. Of course, the knife slipped and went right up between his index finger and his middle finger, and he cut a good inch in between, so like the webbing in there, and fucked it up pretty good. So,
oh man, that'd be painful.
Yeah, it was. So, anyways, he had called. She put him on speakerphone, Lisa, and he sounded like he was in shock. I don't know the guy, so maybe that's just kind of the way he sounds. But he was saying, "Hey, yeah, I think we need some help." And then he was like, yeah, actually, no, I think we're okay. Like he kept kind of waffling like that. Like, oh man, it totally sounds like he's in shock. And I think he was a little lightheaded and losing blood. You're rubbing your head, putting yourself into the situation.
Yeah.
So anyways, we had so much gear, and so film gear and hunting gear and stuff like that. They left me with all the gear at the boat. They hiked back up to see if they could help. They couldn't actually connect with him. Couldn't get him on the phone or anything like that. So hiked back down. We just waited at the boat for quite a while on the docks there. And we said finally, like, okay, we haven't heard from him. We don't know what's going on. Maybe we should just head out, leave a note here. And that, sure enough, right as we start to pull out, we see headlamps.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he was okay. But Lisa cleaned him up and that. And, it was pretty funny. She's like, oh yeah, it doesn't look too bad. But as she's saying that, she's looking at us like, oh man, you fucked up his hand pretty good. Just try not to freak him out. But anyways, it all turned out okay. I think those guys left the following morning and he got it all stitched up. But man, it just kind of...
I don't know if it's probably lucky that he went in between the fingers, because I don't know if there's like major tendons there.
Yeah, well, the way it was... So my wife, Ashley, she was cutting an avocado and knife slipped, and knife went in just below her pinky finger, and she hit a tendon in there.
Yeah.
And it was right as I was getting home from work, and she's like, oh, I'm just making guacamole, and she's holding up the avocado right into her finger, right as I came in the door. And then, so yeah, it was bleeding quite a bit. And then
why did you come into the door at that time?
Yeah, that was my fault. Exactly. So, anyways, we get it cleaned up, and she holds up her hand. She's like, I think it's okay. And her pinky finger's like hanging off to the side. Like she couldn't like pull her pinky up to meet the rest of her fingers. It was like totally just hanging off to the side.
Yeah.
And when I saw this guy's, his index finger was kind of doing the same thing. I'm like, fuck, I think he hit a tendon there, and that thing just doesn't look right. But I never heard a follow up if it was okay or what, but anyways.
You did send me that picture. The first thing that came to my mind, and this kind of comes from my workplace and like to focus on safety. And I kind of think like there should be 2 tailboard meetings in a hunting trip. One of them should be kind of at the beginning of the trip, just maybe just a quick reminder on like, gun safety or like, mind the muzzle kind of thing. You can even just say mind the muzzle and that's it. Like end of story.
Yeah.
But like the other one that I think is more important, and I always think is like the most dangerous part of the trip, is knife safety, especially when you're cleaning stuff.
Yeah. Field
dressing. And again, like a quick, before everybody starts jumping in, because that's the point where everybody's adrenaline is high, right?
Yeah, and everybody wants to be helpful, right? So you want to jump in there and start working on the animal, but it depends on the size of the animal. But say with these blacktail deer, you get 3 people around this tiny little deer. There's a lot of knives flinging around and shit like that, right?
And you don't want to be. That's a quick one that can, not be a good situation in a hurry. So
yeah,
I always think like just before everybody dives into that is just a quick, you could even just say knife safety and then you start like just something quick that brings everybody around to just remember, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree for sure. So, yeah, that's, I don't know. I think people often forget that part of it. Knives can be the thing that really fucks up a hunt in a hurry.
Yeah. Especially like these knives are sharp.
Yeah. So after that, it was getting pretty late by that point. Luckily, they had a few brewskis in the boat and gave us a couple pops while we were there.
Yeah.
And we hopped back in the Zodiac and headed out. And it's probably about a 25 minute drive back to where the sailboat was parked. And we were cruising through the ocean in like dark. So it was kind of it didn't feel unsafe, but it's just sort of like a fun adventure and a different experience and stuff like that. So I was just loving every minute of it. And everybody was like sort of apologetic to the fact that we had to, wait around and do this kind of thing. But it's like, yeah, man, this is all kind of the part of the journey and makes for a good story, and which we're able to share on this podcast right now. So it makes for some good material for us. But we got back to the boat pretty late. Can't even remember what we had for dinner, but just something pretty basic. And then had a few beers and then called it a night, and we were back at it at 5 a.m. the next morning, and same thing, hop in the Zodiac, head back to the spot, park at this particular dock, and then hike in from there. And if you've ever been on the west coast of British Columbia or even sort of Oregon or Northern California, you're kind of into those, big old growth forests and those big green ferns. So to go from hunting desert and stuff in the Okanagan or even just forest in central BC, it's like total contrast, man. Even just to like train your eye and kind of like, we're hiking through this stuff. I'm like, I don't even fucking know where to look for a deer. Like where is a blacktail going to be hiding out and this stuff? They're just around.
What size will it be compared to everything?
Yep. Yeah. And the sign's a little bit different. It's a little bit harder to find tracks. But after, you spend a day and a half there, you start to get a feel for it. But it's just kind of a cool, interesting experience, especially for the first day. Is like you totally feel out of your comfort zone, and it's very wet. Like they all trust their footing because they know what they're dealing with. But I'm like, I don't know what's underneath this moss. It could be like a wet, slippery rock, or you step on a log and it's completely rotten and your foot just drops right through it. And so it's totally different, man. I was kind of hiking a little bit slower than I normally like to, but I'm like, I don't want to slip. And I had all my recording equipment because we were doing the film, and plus I had hunting gear, I had a kill kit, my rifle. So I ended up with a pretty heavy backpack and just trying to be careful and not get hurt. So Saturday, I think Bones saw a few does, but again, he passed on them. The focus for Saturday was more so just filming side of things with Connor and I. So him and I didn't get to do much for hunting at all, which is totally fine. We were there to work, but the day was somewhat uneventful, just cool to be hiking around. And we didn't really see much other than those does that he had passed on. Actually, no, that's true. He took a shot at a buck, but missed. He hit a tree because it's pretty tight in there, man. So I think he had there was a 2-point or something like that in his sights, and it was kind of starting to walk through, and he tried to take a shot at it sort of last minute and hit a tree, and the thing was gone. So they're fucking fast too.
Yeah. When I was driving to Souk, BC, which is on the island too, same time frame. I just wasn't, with you guys, but I was driving down the highway and it was lunchtime. So some of the kids were out of school and some were walking back from home or like whatever they were doing. I noticed this little Sitka blacktail buck. Yeah. It's like a 2 or 3 pointer. This nice buck. Nice. And it's walking, it's like stopped at the stop sign, and this kid's walking by and it charged the little kid.
Nice.
Just a little bit. Like it was just a little little gallop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the kid kind of
a false charge.
Yeah, exactly. And I I don't know. I thought that was the first Sitka blacktail I've seen.
Oh, nice. Is that your first time on the island?
Nope.
Oh yeah,
No,
you
'cause
did
I did the fishing trip
last year. That was your first time. On
admittedly, I've not spent enough time on the island for growing up in BC in the Kootenays. I don't know why. I don't really have a reason for it. I haven't spent a lot of time out there.
Yeah.
So I haven't been to Souk, which was great. Just hang out there for a while. And then I went back to Victoria and I had about 6 hours to myself.
Nice.
Walked around there for a while.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then met up with Chris Barker there from the Wild Sheep Society of BC.
Yeah.
We did a podcast without a microphone from the
Nice.
Phillips Brewery, which was great.
Cool.
But anyways, back to the story.
Nice. Yeah. So that was the end of Saturday. Again, it sort of always ends with driving back at the Zodiac in the dark, and just like the most amazing sunsets. And because the weather was incredible, man. Got super lucky. No rain the whole weekend. And
Yeah, it was nice.
Saturday was unreal. So like I felt like a kid in the candy store, man. I was just grinning from ear to ear and just enjoying every single minute of being out in that boat and taking it all in, because it's just such a unique experience and something that we never get to do. But we got back, and so Connor was a chef. He's switched his focus more to just doing video and all that kind of stuff now.
Yep.
And photography. He's an excellent photographer. And Ryan is also a chef. So pretty lucky to have two chefs around you when you're out there. And they had picked up, do you know what tomahawk steaks are?
I think they serve one at Rod's here in Kelowna.
It's basically like a ribeye with the rib bone left in. So it's huge. This thick slab of meat, just massive. They had two of them. I can't even imagine what these things cost. So what they did was season them. There was charcoal barbecues at the spot where the sailboat was parked. And they cooked those up along with some asparagus and I can't remember what the name of the cheese was. It almost looks like tofu, but they threw that on the grill. Cooked all that stuff up and just cut it up, and we ate it like caveman style right off the picnic table.
Nice.
Holy shit. It was one of the best meals I've had in a while, man. Just phenomenal. So totally spoiled.
Awesome.
Rotten. Yeah. And they had some, I think it was scotch from Japan or something like that we ended off the night with. And it was kind of funny because somehow we ended up listening to some Shane Mahoney.
Nice.
It was probably pretty late by that point. So we were sitting around. It was just the three of us. It was myself, Bones, and Ryan. And I don't know how we got talking about Shane Mahoney. They didn't know who he was. They were sort of intrigued by the guy. So I was playing some Conservation Matters, which is Shane's podcast. And no disrespect to Shane, it's sort of like in the best way possible. All three of us just fell asleep on the couches out there and just passed right out. I woke up like 2 hours later and I look over, I see them. They're passed out on the couches too. It was just kind of hilarious because it's like such a soothing voice to listen to. And those guys were passed out in the same spot until we got up in the morning again, which was 5 o'clock. So it was kind of an early morning and a bit rough getting up, but we headed back out, and we only had half the day to actually get a deer, and this was a big part of getting the actual story that we were trying to film and stuff like that. So we all sort of spread out into two teams. So there was Connor, myself, and Ryan, because Ryan was sort of the feature of the film, and then Lisa and Bones, they went out and spread out further down. Long story short, we ended up with 2 deer, and I won't give too many more details than that, but it was kind of a pretty spectacular ending to an amazing trip with some really good people, and we got all the footage that we needed, and everything worked out, and just like with a perfect amount of time too. So we got these 2 deer out, we got everything filmed, and after that we went and checked the prawn and crab traps. We had some crabs in there. Some of them were too small, and the one that was a keeper was a female, so they all had to be thrown back in. But we went to the prawn trap, and it was just loaded with prawns. So they go through and they filter out the male and female. Males are keepers. Females, they have little eggs along the underside of them, so you have to throw those ones back. But they were kind enough to throw those into my cooler, so I came back with a bunch of prawns and some deer meat, and fucking just an amazing weekend, man.
Nice.
Yeah, so we have to try and, either weasel our way into another hunt with them and go out on the sailboat,
Yeah.
or we do something like Haida Gwaii, like we've talked about, head up that way and do a blacktail hunt. Because man, it was so much fun and just different terrain and different approach, and the fact that you have the ocean there to get crab and shrimp if you have the ability to get out there and set traps or even jig for cod or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just such a cool experience, and yeah, I feel super lucky that I got to go out there and do that with them, and they were amazing hosts, man. I totally feel spoiled, and
Awesome.
yeah, so it was awesome weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked like you sent me a couple pictures along the way. It looked like good time. Species is awesome. Environment that they're in. Like it really ties that kind of, why do you hunt for this?
Yeah.
Well, because the environment is so much different. It highlights the diversity in BC.
Yeah.
Different modes of transportation.
Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
For
I don't
sure.
think you'll have to twist my arm too hard to participate in anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked on like Haida Gwaii potential.
Yep.
For blacktail.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean they're smaller deer, but I think they bring a big story.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Like with the experience you get going there, right? So
and that's kind of what we were talking about in the last podcast, was like what you want from a hunt. Well, I think for me anyways, and I think you're sort of on the same board, is like a new experience, a new challenge, the opportunity to learn something about yourself and do something different. And it hit all of those marks over the weekend, and came home with meat and prawns and everything. It was just fucking amazing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
The old fishing trips on the island are good too. I mean, different, not necessarily hunting for mammals, but going after the fish.
Yeah, that's the cool thing, is we can tie that stuff in together, which is kind of what we were doing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it's also just a reminder how lucky we are to live in BC and how diverse everything is here. And yeah.
Yep. Roosevelt elk is something that I think we should be looking into as well. It's
Yeah,
all
man.
LEH based, but I think we should be putting in for those because you never know.
Yeah.
Might get the call one day.
I've seen some on the island, and
Yeah.
they're beauties.
Nice.
And it seems like there's a lot of them too. So that would be fun.
Definitely.
But yeah, that was my weekend, man.
Cool.
It ended off too with another spectacular sunset as we came back into Vancouver.
Yeah.
Incredible. Mount Baker was in the background, and because the sun was setting, Mount Baker has snow. It's a snow-capped mountain. It was right behind the city, and it was like glowing red.
Nice.
Fucking just unreal, man. I can't even hard to even explain it. It's something you just have to experience, and yeah, pretty rad.
Awesome.
Super grateful. Yeah.
Do you have more photos from this trip that you could put on Instagram?
I'm sure I can find something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was hard because I'm working, and trying to like pull up my phone and snap photos, but there was very little time, and I had hoped to maybe try and do a podcast with everybody, but it was just long days and not much time to do anything like that. But yeah, I've got some more photos that we can throw up there. I did post one a couple of days ago. It kind of gives, I don't know, if you zoom in on that photo, there's actually two people in there hiking. It just sort of shows you how big those old growth forests are. Some of those trees, just massive, man. Like, I was trying to take photos and videos just to sort of like send to you and be like, hey, check this out. But it doesn't even do it justice. It's just unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, we'll keep that on the list.
Yeah.
As like a group hunt.
Yeah,
to
man.
go back there for some blacktails.
We'll charter their sailboat. And
yeah.
Well,
who's driving it?
We'll get Ryan to drive it first. Ryan, if you're listening, you're hired.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyways, man.
Nice. Well, yeah, sounds like a good trip. And you came back with some meat too. So
meat too. Man, it felt
here's
good.
my question. When's the next dinner?
Well, yeah, I've got a shoulder and some cut the whole neck off and some back straps and all that kind of stuff. So we should line up a dinner before Christmas comes around. Maybe we should sort of plan a party around actually doing some wild game.
We should do as much as we can.
Yeah.
In terms of like different variety, right? Like you could do the blacktail and the prawns and all that.
Yeah.
We can bring some
I already
salmon,
ate the prawns.
halibut.
The prawns are long gone.
Prawns are gone. So we'll need some halibut or lingcod or salmon.
Yeah.
We can bring out the bear sausage again.
Yep, for sure.
Trappies.
Yep. Yeah, let's plan that for a Christmas thing.
Okay.
You guys are doing an ugly
I see an
sweater
Instagram
party, right?
story coming.
Yeah. Or Instagram story. I don't know what the fuck I was going to say, but we're into it now. As of an hour ago.
Yeah. Boomerang.
Boomerang. Yeah, I hate those. This weekend we're butchering pigs, so that's going to be the topic for next week. Should be a pretty interesting experience.
It should.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool, man. Final thoughts?
I don't know. I think it's just good that, I think it highlights for me that hunting can bring you to some amazing places.
Fuck yeah, man. Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah. I would agree with that. So I will leave by sending out a huge thank you to Lisa, Brian, Bones, and Connor for a wicked weekend. And I think we've got a good crew of people that you're going to have to meet here, Kel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping to get them out this way for a bear hunt in the spring, maybe. So hopefully we can line that stuff up. And these are people I never would have met or hunted with otherwise if it wasn't for hunting. So pretty cool what hunting does.
Exactly.
Cool, man. Well, I will see you on Saturday for the butchering of the pigs.
Yep. The day.
Yeah.
It's like going to the grocery store, but you're getting high quality meat.
Mm-hmm.
What are you even feeding it though? Like,
it's all organic. Like,
yeah,
it's good. It's good stuff. Yep.
I figured as much.
Yep. And you'll see when we get up there, they've been raised in a really nice area. They're happy pigs. And
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Should be good, man. So we'll see you then.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
This episode of Rookie Hunter was also brought to you by North Arm Knives. North Arm Knives are handcrafted and sold directly through a father and son team right here in British Columbia. Choose from a selection of outdoor knives, kitchen knives, and custom engravings from northarmknives.com. They ship internationally and guarantee all of their work. Kelly and I have put their products to the ultimate test and give them our stamp of approval. Head over to northarmknives.com.